Hey there, it's Seb from Screech House, and today you will get all the essential basics you need to know exactly how to use LFOs on your synthesizer. But before you may forget, first click the subscribe button and bell icon right now, so you never miss the exclusive music production content I frequently share on my channel. So go ahead, tap these bad boys, and when you've done that, let's begin. When I was just starting out as a producer, I had absolutely no idea how a synthesizer worked and what all these weird knobs did. So quite frankly, I was downright ignorant, and this really hurt the quality of my songs. That's why, to spare you these experiences, I've created this short course series where you will learn all essential basics of sound design, which for today is how to use LFOs. Of course, a brief video cannot go into full depth, so to benefit from way more details and a complete step-by-step approach, just get the Sound Design for Beginners guide. This well-received guide will teach you everything you need to know as a beginner, including oscillators, filters, envelopes, LFOs, and bonus content. I'll put a link in the description below, just click it and you can start right away. Now, what exactly is an LFO? Now, an LFO stands for low frequency oscillator, and just as an envelope it can create a movement with your sound. Whereas an envelope will produce a single or one-time motion, the LFO can produce a repeating motion. So this way an LFO can modulate or vibrate your sound based on a wave pattern. Now the modulation can take many forms depending on your design, and thereby you can create different types such as a volume modulation, panning modulation, pitch modulation or filter modulations. But also you can choose when the modulation should happen, how fast the modulation should be, and which shape the modulation should have. So for example, if you'd select the pitch LFO, you can move the tone of your sound up and down repeatedly at a certain rate. And in the same way, if you'd select a panning LFO, you can move the sound between the left and right speakers sequentially at a certain speed. Thereby, each movement always follows a certain wave shape pattern, such as a sine wave, triangle wave or pulse wave, so the shape dictates the way the modulation occurs. Well, hopefully that doesn't sound too complex, but I promise you it's really easy. That's why keep watching until the very end, as we will cover the LFOs step by step, and I will give you practical examples so you will get this in no time. Also, at the end of this video you can download a free sample pack by using the link in the description below. So when you're done watching, go to the description and make sure to click the link inside. And finally, as for demonstration purposes throughout this video, I am going to use the Silent 1 synthesizer. However, you can use your own favorite synth because many of them kind of work in a similar way. Now, let's explore the first LFO setting, which is the target. How to use LFO target. An LFO target, also called destination, defines the sound modulation. So it dictates which knob has to move. And by setting the target, you choose upfront which type of modulation you wish to create. There are usually many targets to choose from, but the most common ones are volume, panning, pitch, filter cutoff and filter resonance. Now if you don't know what this means, again start with the Sound Design for Beginners guide first, and the link is in the description below. So if you want to create a volume modulation, select volume as the target. And if you want to create a pitch modulation, select pitch as the target. And so forth. And let me show you that right here. Be aware though that selecting a target on itself doesn't produce an effect, and in order to do that we have to use the other LFO options as well. So stick around as you don't want to miss these. How to use LFO shape. Now next in line is the LFO shape. The shape defines the behavior of the modulation, so it determines how the modulation moves, so to speak, and therefore it uses a waveform like a sine, triangle or pulse. And by selecting one of these waveforms, you determine upfront which modulation sequence you wish to create. Often you will find many different waveforms to choose from, but the most common ones are the sine, triangle or pulse. But how does each of these affect your sound? The sine waveform moves in a gradual, non-linear way, and it makes the modulation sound wobbly with smooth transitions. And the triangle waveform moves in a tight, linear way, and it makes the modulation sound quite like a sine but less wobbly and with straighter transitions. Now in contrary, the pulse waveform moves in an abrupt or immediate way, and it makes the modulation sound bipolar, so it switches from one state to the other without any transitions. So each shape has a different impact on how your sound modulates, And on the silent one, this is how you select one of the available wave shapes. Again, we're still setting the initial conditions here, so for now the LFO doesn't affect the sound as of yet. However, if you stay with me, this is about to change quickly. You will soon hear the LFO in action, as we're now going to look at the LFO amount. How to use LFO amount. The LFO amount, sometimes called gain, controls the intensity of the sound modulation, so it dictates how extreme the modulation occurs. And this way, a higher amount results in a stronger modulation and a lower amount results in a weaker modulation. So the more you open this knob, the higher the intensity. Though usually you will find the LFO amount knob going in two directions, whereby the center represents a zero value, which means no modulation. And by choosing between left or right, you dictate in which way the modulation occurs. So this way, the behavior of the LFO will completely invert if you move the barometer to the opposite side. So the orientation of the LFO amount sets the direction for the movement. Now if you lost me here, don't worry, let me just give you an example. Let's say you want to make a pitch modulation and therefore you select pitch as the target and you open the LFO amount to the right. Great, the tone of your sound first goes up, then goes down repeatedly. However, instead of choosing right, you now orientate the LFO amount to the left. And suddenly the tone of your sound first moves down and then moves up repeatedly. So the modulation has been inverted. And let me show you that right away, but be aware that the silent one has two different amount settings. One to define the direction and amount for the target, and one for the general amount of the LFO. So we need to tweak both to produce a result. As you can see, this is starting to go somewhere. And if you like where this is going, please take a second to share this video, because this is the absolute best way to reach the people who need this information. So take a second right now and click the share button below. Once you have shown my legendary video to your friends, let's speed things up. How to use LFO speed. Now, one of the characteristics of an LFO is the ability to set the speed for the modulation. So the LFO speed, sometimes called rate, determines how quickly your sound modulates. So a higher speed produces a rapid vibration and a lower speed generates a slower vibration. I think this is very straightforward and doesn't need much explanation, so let me just show it to you. Mind you though, as I also talk about in the Sound Design for Beginners guide, higher speeds can produce a tonal side effect. After all, LFOs are oscillators as well, and their rates dictate which lower frequency will be added to your sound. However, this is mostly a non-issue and only noticeable at higher speeds and higher amounts. So let's move on and stay with me for one more minute as we go to the last options for today. How to use LFO delay and attack. Some synthesizers allow you to set a delay and attack for the LFO, and the delay and attack deal with the starting time of the modulation, so they control when and how quickly the modulation begins. Now, other synthesizers may give you even more control over the timing of the modulation, such as the full attack, decay, sustain and release times, but if you want to learn more about these, please watch the envelope tutorial as it's all in there. Now unfortunately, many synthesizers, such as the Silent one, don't have direct timing functions for the LFO. So I cannot show it to you. However, you could assign the LFO to an envelope and have full control over the timing that way. Nonetheless, this is slightly more advanced and I don't want to intimidate you in this beginner series. But don't sweat it, this is more than enough to know when it comes down to LFOs. It should already give you all the tools needed to produce epic sound movements. And to finish with a bang, let me play around with all the basic LFO settings one more time and then it's your turn. That should do it for this video, but if you'd like to explore all the synthesizer settings in full depth and at your own pace, just get the Sound Design for Beginners guide. Many people have already read it, but if you don't, start now by clicking the link in the description below. Go ahead and I'll see you there.